Hey mamas, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who has helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Shift podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get access to guest experts who will share ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week's episode, we're going to talk all about caffeine. So you might be wondering about caffeine amounts if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, or you might just be wondering, am I too dependent on caffeine? Is it good for my overall health and well-being? And we're just going to dive into all of those things. So first, before we dive in, I'm going to read a written review. This is from Paleo Mom of Two. She said, like a helpful friend who gets it. Sometimes it seems like all the other new moms around you have some magical, perfect mom powers that you weren't gifted, and it can be extremely frustrating. Why do they seem to put it all together and feel energized when you barely make it through the day? Why does your milk supply not seem to satisfy your baby? Why does it seem like your hairbrush moves more hair than anyone else? The list feels like it goes on, and it can make a new mom feel alone and defeated. Brooke is like the friend who gets it, who's been through it and came out on the other side with great advice. She's taught me so much about why these things are happening to me and ways to fix them in a way that doesn't make you feel like a failure or you're not good enough. It's helped me understand that so many other women go through this too, and I'm so grateful for what she does. Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for listening and leaving a written review. The written reviews help the podcast so much. So if you haven't left a written review yet, I would appreciate it. And you can get into our next drawing. We run drawings for gift cards and fun things like that every so often. And so I still pull winners from people who left a review even a few weeks ago or a few months ago. So leave that review so that you can get entered to win. All right, let's dive in. So I want you to first think about why you're consuming caffeine. Is it a habit? Is it because you're exhausted? Like, what is your why? And there's not a wrong or right reason, but it is really important because caffeine, technically, it is a drug. It's the most commonly used drug in the world. And most of us use it on a daily basis. And so tuning in with why am I drinking it? Is it because I love the flavor? Is it just, part of my morning routine? Is it because I'm exhausted and I'm hoping that it will help me? And the reason I want you to think about your why is because if you're using it to treat exhaustion, this is just a short-term band-aid. We really need to get to the root cause of why you're exhausted. Now, for some of us, it might just be a habit. And again, that's okay if it's a habit, but acknowledging like, is this habit serving me? And is this amount of caffeine that I'm having, is this serving me? Yes or no? Some of us just love the flavor. For me, I love the smell of coffee in the morning and I love the flavor of it so much. It makes me happy. And so if you are pregnant, like I am, you probably want to know how much caffeine is safe. So it's best to limit the amount to about 200 milligrams per day. This is about the amount of, a 1.5 8-ounce cup of coffee, or just think about it as like a 12-ounce cup of coffee. So you can have that amount while you are pregnant. If you are breastfeeding, it's a higher dose. Amen. We are sleep deprived. And, after cutting down on caffeine for 9 months, it is nice to be able to drink more when we're breastfeeding. So you can have 200 to 300 milligrams, which is about 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day while breastfeeding. And I do recommend, adding water in throughout the day too. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the reason we want to pay attention to how caffeine impacts our body is because we want to make sure that we're timing it effectively with our day, that we're, having caffeine with a good amount of food and water. And we're going to talk about why here in a second. So caffeine increases our cortisol, which is our stress hormone, especially when we are at rest or if we are undergoing any like mental type of stress. And so for most of us, our cortisol levels are spiking and they are the highest in the morning. For most of us, it's around 8:30 a.m. And when we are at this highest amount of cortisol level, because again, your body is trying to wake itself up. So this is why when we are having caffeine, when our cortisol levels are already elevated, we are going to elevate our cortisol levels even more. And so this can actually cause some stress to our adrenal glands if we're consuming too much of this caffeine early in the morning. So rather than having caffeine and coffee first thing in the morning before breakfast, what I actually do and what I actually recommend is you wake up in the morning and you have a full glass of water. I love even the LMNT electrolyte supplement. You have a full glass of water, have a full breakfast, a balanced breakfast. And after that, then have your morning coffee after breakfast and after you've been well hydrated. And ideally, from a time perspective, studies show that between like 9 and 11 a.m. would actually be a better time of day to consume your caffeine. So if you can try to hold off and see how you feel, most moms I work with notice a massive difference just by hydrating really well in the morning and having a balanced breakfast before having their caffeine. They notice that they feel a lot better and less jittery and less stressed and less anxious. So if you are somebody who feels stressed and anxious often, you may want to cut down on your caffeine intake. You may even want to eliminate it if you're not doing a lot and see how your body does. We are all so unique and different. So it's definitely something to experiment with. If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there. Now, when it comes to caffeine and exercise, there are studies to show that caffeine can be really beneficial before exercise. It can boost our performance and our endurance. So, again, we have to time this correctly. We don't want to do caffeine necessarily too late in our day. For some people, caffeine too late in the day can actually cause them to stay up at night and it can impact their sleep. So I know some people can't have caffeine after noon or 2. It impacts their sleep. For me, I can have caffeine at 2 p.m. and it does not impact my sleep. So it depends on really what time of day you are exercising. I mean, if you're exercising at 7 at night, you probably don't want to do caffeine right before exercising. But if you exercise in the morning, somewhere between the hours of 9 and 2, then trying to have your caffeine right before exercise is something to test out. Again, I would still make sure that you're eating and staying well hydrated, but sometimes caffeine before exercise can boost performance and endurance. It can even help your body break down fat more efficiently, and it can just help you have a more effective workout, especially when you are doing something more high intense or you need more strength and endurance. And so this is something, again, to experiment with. Now, if this is something that is impacting your sleep, we really don't want that to happen. So when our sleep is disrupted, this throws off our hunger and fullness hormones, and it can even impact our flavors, like different flavors that we crave. And so for many of us, we start to crave more sweets when our sleep is disrupted. So this is something that we want to be really cautious of and pay attention to. How is caffeine working in my body? And some research has also showed that low to moderate doses of caffeine can help us with alertness and energy throughout the day and ability to focus and concentrate. But if we are doing too high of a dose for our body, it can actually have negative effects. So anxiety, restfulness, insomnia, increased heart rate. And so this is something that we really need to pay attention to, is what's the amount that feels good for our body. In, general, for most adults, some caffeine, some coffee is there is some health benefits. Coffee does have antioxidants in it, and research has even shown that coffee drinkers are less likely to die from heart disease, stroke, diabetes, kidney disease, heart failure, Parkinson's, Alzheimer, colorectal cancer, and it can even help regulate our blood sugar depending on, when we're having it throughout the day. And so there are definitely benefits to drinking caffeine. For some people, they prefer coffee. For some, they prefer tea. So either way, all this to say is the key things we want to take away from caffeine is timing is really, really crucial, and paying attention to how our specific body works with caffeine and is impacted by caffeine. And having some caffeine is totally fine for most of us. But again, once we hit that threshold for our body, we can start to have negative impacts. We really need to be paying attention to how our body is responding, and just understanding that there is a relationship between coffee and our stress hormone cortisol. And so if we're overdoing it with caffeine, or we are doing too much coffee too early in the morning, this can actually lead to just more stress on our body. And so I hope you don't feel guilty if you are pregnant, especially, or breastfeeding. And if anybody tells you that you shouldn't have any caffeine or they're judging you, just let them know that the research shows you can have some caffeine while breastfeeding, while pregnant. I remember being at family functions being pregnant, and I asked for like a Diet Coke one time, and somebody was like, "Oh, well, we don't have any caffeine-free Diet Coke." And I was like, "No, I want a regular Diet Coke. Like, there's not that much caffeine in that. Give me a Diet Coke. I haven't had one in a long time." And so I know you might order at a coffee shop pregnant, and you might get some looks from your barista, but just that friendly reminder that, you can have some, and it's totally up to your comfort level too. So I have met some moms who are pregnant and they are really nervous about having caffeine. And so if that's you and you're nervous about it and you're not a huge coffee drinker and you don't really need it, you don't like the flavor of it, then no big deal. You absolutely do not have to consume it. I know for me, my first trimester with a lot of my pregnancies, it didn't really sound that good to me. And so for me, a lot of times in my first trimester, I really wasn't drinking any caffeine. And then by my second trimester, I was feeling a lot better and I wasn't having food aversions. And I brought my caffeine back into my mid-morning, like the mid part of my morning between my breakfast and lunch. So test it out. Let me know what you think. And I hope that this episode gave you some clarity and confidence. So again, if you are finding that you are leaning on too much caffeine throughout the day, hoping that it is somehow going to boost your energy, I hate to break it to you, but it is not going to boost your energy levels all day long. And so if you are struggling with exhaustion, it's really, really important that we pay attention to other root causes. So how are your hormones functioning? How is your sleep going? What does your blood sugar look like throughout the day? These are some things we really, really, really need to be paying attention to. Even things like, how often are we getting outside and going for a walk? How often are we moving our body? There are so many root cause reasons why moms are struggling with exhaustion. So I do caution you, if coffee is the thing that you are leaning on to help you with exhaustion, there are better ways. There are other ways. Coffee is just a short-term Band-Aid. It is not a long-term solution. And it's really important to get to the root cause and diagnose that exhaustion. But again, if it's just something you enjoy the flavor and smell of, and it's something that is a happy part of your day, like it is for me, then no harm, no foul. And I hope you enjoy your caffeine. And I will see you next week on the next episode. Have a great day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the Postpartum Shift podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi over on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.